Hey guys, tonight we're setting sail, not into peaceful waters, but into the belly of a steel beast tossed on the waves of World War II. You're not a captain, not a gunner, not even a lookout. You're the cook, and not just any cook. You're deaf. In a floating fortress where every alarm is a scream and every footstep could signal danger, you survive without a single sound. Now, try cooking 3 meals a day for 200 men while the floor shifts like a roller coaster. The ceiling sweats salt, and the knives, well, let's just say they have a tendency to leap without warning. Oh, and if you spill the potatoes again, Petty Officer Harrison will personally turn your kitchen into a war zone. You've got no radar, no radio, no way to hear the chaos, but somehow you notice what others miss. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I promise I'll read them all. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins with heat, not the warm, toasty kind. This is grease in your eyes, sweat in your collar, heat. You're hunched over a stove that rattles with every wave. Steam curls up like ghosts trying to escape. It's the kind of morning where even your boiled eggs come out tense. You walk with your knees bent, compensating for the tilt of the ship, balancing a tray of sausages that sizzle like angry bees. The clatter of pans above you, just turbulence, or a clumsy sailor. Or maybe that one guy from Kansas who thinks the laws of gravity don't apply to him. Now here's the thing, they all think you're slow or simple. You don't argue, you nod, smile, and get back to peeling potatoes. What they don't realize is this: when one sense closes, the others sharpen. You've learned to feel the language of the ship, every groan in the metal hull, every flicker in the lights, every shift in air pressure. It all speaks to you. This morning, the ship speaks in a whisper. It's subtle, too subtle for most. A kind of tension in the walls, like the ship itself is holding its breath. They say USS Altamira isn't the prettiest destroyer in the fleet, but you know her better than most know their own home. Her patterns, her pacing, her odd quirks, like the way the floor just behind the pantry hums when the engines hit 70%, or how the aft deck creaks twice before someone gets seasick. And today, none of that is happening. You pause near the walk-in freezer, not because you're cold, but because the silence feels off. Not your kind of silence, their kind. The kind that creeps in before something breaks. You place your hand on the bulkhead. Wait, there it is. A shiver, not vibration from the engine. It's tighter, higher pitched, like metal being watched. You know that feeling. Back home, your dog used to bark at storms an hour before they hit. This is the same feeling in your ribs, but this time, you're the dog, and no one hears you bark. Historically, ships like this were built fast. Between 1941 and 1945, American yards pumped out destroyers at a jaw-dropping rate. Over 800 vessels cobbled together by men who barely knew each other's names. It was speed over soul, yet somehow you bonded with this machine. There's a myth, some say nonsense, others swear by it, that certain deaf individuals during WW2 were used by engineers to detect tiny structural faults just by touch. Historians still debate if this was widespread or just legend. But standing there, your palm on the steel, you believe it. And then someone yells. You don't hear it, but you see the motion. 2 sailors sprint past the galley, one slapping the emergency door frame. You know that signal. A code red drill. You sigh. Your cornbread is going to burn again. You scramble to secure the kitchen, tying down pots with speed born of practice. It's almost a dance now. Clamp, twist, brace, pivot. You don't panic. You never do. Panic is for people who expect answers from the outside world. You've lived in your own for so long, you've built stability in silence. Still, you're not prepared when the lights flicker, just for a second. But in a warship, a flicker can mean 10 things, and 8 of them are bad. You grip the stove, breathe through your nose, and wait. It returns, normal hum. But the floor beneath you, no, it's shifted again. Not in motion, in tone. It's like the ship is scared, and that's how it starts. Not with a bang, not with sirens. Just a man with a tray of overcooked biscuits, standing barefoot on a steel floor, listening with his bones. The biscuits are ruined, but that's not what bothers you. What bothers you is the way the deck keeps humming long after the lights come back. Not the familiar rhythmic purr of the turbines. No, this is a jittery tremble, like the ship is nervously tapping its foot. You brace your palm against the metal countertop, trying to feel it again, confirming you're not imagining things. You aren't. Outside the galley, boots stomp back and forth in fast, chaotic bursts. You can't hear them, but you know the rhythm of frantic movement when you see it. Someone knocks over a tray. You glance up in time to see a young seaman mouth something sharp and flustered, probably cursing. Probably his first week aboard. You wonder if he knows where the life jackets are. You hope so. Inside the kitchen, you return to your prep. Your hands keep busy, chopping onions with swift, automatic movements. But your mind is elsewhere. The vibrations aren't going away, and neither is the smell, because suddenly, you smell fuel. Not the usual whiff of engine oil that clings to uniforms and toolkits. This is sharper, rawer, like something is leaking. You wipe your hands and open the hatch that leads to the storage corridor. A blast of warm, chemical air slaps you in the face. You freeze. If this were a movie, this would be the moment someone yells, "Shut it down," and the audience hears a tense soundtrack. But this isn't a movie. This is just you, in a steel hallway that smells like it's seconds from catching fire, trying to figure out how to warn people who barely notice you. You remember last week when Lieutenant Carson laughed after you wrote "leak" on a napkin and pointed under a sink. Turned out it was nothing, just a pipe, hissing from steam. You're not sure you can afford another false alarm, and yet there's a strange irony to all this. You're a man who lives without sound, and today, it feels like you're the only one truly listening. You move through the lower corridor, scanning the vents and pipes, pausing to feel them. Each surface buzzes in its own language. The ship is telling you something, not clearly, but enough. You pass a storage compartment and pause. There, behind the canned peaches and crates of flour, something's dripping, slow, steady, wrong. You crouch and press your fingers into the deck. There's a subtle warmth here, like a fever just under the skin. And there's that smell again. Diesel mixed with metal. It's leaking from somewhere above. Historically, fuel leaks on WW-30 destroyers were rare, but deadly. A single spark near pooled diesel could incinerate an entire compartment. That's why regulations were strict. Everything bolted, everything checked. But you know wartime shortcuts. You've seen loose bolts blamed on bad shipments and duct tape where there should be clamps. So you do what any good cook would do. You grab a ladle, walk into the officer's mess, and start banging on the table. They look at you like you've lost your mind. You grab a napkin, scribble one word, leak, and draw an arrow. A couple of them laugh. You roll your eyes, dramatically, because sarcasm is your love language, and try again. This time, you slam the ladle, mimic an explosion with your fingers, and then pinch your nose. Finally, someone gets it. Chief Baker. He's the only one who ever learned a few signs, mostly food-related. You mime dripping. He squints, points toward the storage area. You nod. Baker follows you. The two of you walk in silence, your usual kind. When he reaches the warm spot in the floor, he kneels down, frowns, then mutters something into his walkie-talkie. You can't hear the response, but he stiffens. Something's happening. Turns out the ship is passing through waters where U-boats were last seen 48 hours ago. The crew thought they were safe. The officers figured any threat had already moved on. But what you felt was something different. Not from outside the ship, but inside it. A mistake. A flaw. One historian once wrote, "The silent weaknesses of warships are what sink them. Not the torpedo, but the rivets that weren't checked." It's debated, of course. Some say no single flaw ever doomed a vessel. Others point to the USS Indianapolis and whisper that human error always plays a part. You'd bet your best frying pan that a careless patch job caused this one. Baker doesn't speak, but his look says enough. You were right. It feels like a victory, a quiet one. But you've learned that those are the best kind. Still, nobody's celebrating. The engineers are swarming the deck above, trying to isolate the leak before it reaches the heat of the engine room. You return to your kitchen. The biscuits are blackened, the sausages shriveled. You laugh to yourself. Guess it's powdered eggs and powdered shame today. As you scrape the pan, the floor shivers again, but this time it feels calmer. The ship isn't breathing easy yet, but she's no longer holding her breath, and neither are you. It starts with an alarm. Not that you hear it, of course not, but the red glow pulses through the hall like a warning heartbeat. You're mid-stir in a vat of something allegedly resembling stew, and when the lights shift, you pause, spoon raised like a conductor about to start a symphony of chaos. This time, though, it's not a drill. You don't need ears to know the difference. You see it in the eyes of Seaman Fletch, who darts past the galley door, pale as flour, and mouthing something too frantic to lip-read. You see it in the way the officers jog instead of walk, a controlled urgency that says, "We didn't plan for this." Still, you stay where you are. The ship is rocking more now, more than a regular swell. You've cooked through rough seas before, but this is sharper, unpredictable, like the ocean itself is having second thoughts. Then, thump, you feel it, through your boots, through your bone. Not an impact, a shift. You drop your spoon. It lands with a dull thud, but all your attention is now on the metal underneath you. The vibrations have changed again. You step out of the galley and plant your feet in the hallway, eyes closing instinctively. There, that's not normal engine rhythm. You've memorized those. This one's shorter, jagged, not internal, external, a depth charge maybe. You don't know, but something just happened nearby. Very nearby. You duck back inside and open the small cabinet with emergency rations. It's not protocol, but you've seen enough war posters to know this moment matters. One of them even said, "Loose lips sink ships." You always liked that. You've got no lips to contribute to the problem. With quick hands, you gather some crackers, canteens, a flashlight, and an absurdly small bottle of hot sauce. Because if you're going down, you'll at least have flavor. You stash it all in a knapsack and sling it over your shoulder, then look around. The kitchen, your kingdom. Burn marks on the counter, a dent in the pan from when Seaman Doyle dropped it, and your secret stash of cocoa hidden behind the oatmeal. If this ship sinks, no one will know that this was the heart of it all. Then another tremor, stronger. You grab a handrail as dust rains down from the ceiling, and somewhere close, a pipe hisses angrily, and that's when the smell returns. Not fuel this time, burnt metal. You step cautiously toward the hallway. The red light still pulses, but now it's joined by something else, blinking amber. That means someone triggered a perimeter lock, standard during threats. Hatches sealed. No one's getting out or in unless the captain says so. You lean against the wall and feel again. This time, You pick up two things. One, a distant pulsing, like sonar, but offbeat. And two, the regular thrumming of the destroyer's heartbeat is stalling every few seconds, like she's choking. Something's jamming the works. You move instinctively, following the vibrations like a bloodhound through the mess, down a corridor filled with crates, past a panicked officer shouting into a receiver who barely notices you. Or maybe he does. Maybe he thinks, "What's the cook doing here?" Well, funny thing, the cook might just be the only person paying attention. You find yourself at the rear bulkhead, near the auxiliary control room. You're not allowed in, but today isn't about rules. The hatch is open, smoke curls from a panel just inside, and sitting cross-legged on the floor is radio operator Lim, coughing into his sleeve. You wave. He looks up, startled. He tries speaking. You tap your ear and shake your head. Lim gestures frantically. He points to the panel, then to the floor, then mimics an explosion with his hands. The universal sign for uh-oh. You step inside, careful not to touch anything. One of the smaller generators is sparking in bursts, but the kill switch is jammed, bent. You grab the edge of a steel crate and wedge it under the handle. Crack. The switch pops free. The sparking stops. Silence, your kind of silence, returns. Lim blinks, gives you a thumbs up. You nod, mouth the words, "Get help." Back in the galley, the stew is ruined. Obviously. You dump it without ceremony and begin boiling water for something safer. Coffee, maybe, or tea, or just something warm, because the air has gone cold in a way that has nothing to do with temperature. The ship shudders again, and this time, you don't even need to close your eyes to know. Something is stalking you. Historically, German U-boats were notorious for silently tailing ships for hours before striking. Like wolves in the dark, they'd wait for the perfect moment, when the crew relaxed, when the lookout blinked, when the world stopped paying attention. That's what you feel now. The hair on your arms prickles. You turn off the burner and sit. Wait, listen, and there it is. A long, low groan from beneath the ship. Not from inside, not from you. You place your hand against the floor, just behind the pantry. The sweet spot. A new vibration hums through the hull. Faint, rhythmic. Not your engine, not friendly. And just like that, you know, the hunter is here. You don't move. You don't even blink. Your fingers rest against the cold metal deck, and through them pulses a rhythm that doesn't belong here. It's a new kind of heartbeat, mechanical, foreign, quiet as a predator. You feel it first in your fingertips, then in the bones of your wrist. You don't need sonar or a periscope. You know exactly what's out there. Something's tracking you. The galley around you remains still. The scent of burnt stew still clings to the air, mingled now with the metallic tang of fear. Your fear, though it doesn't show on your face. You've learned to wear calm like an apron. It gets splashed, stained, but never taken off. You rise slowly, knees cracking like old hinges. There's no point in alerting the others just yet. They're too busy watching the sky, reading radar, shouting into headsets. You, meanwhile, are reading the floor, and the floor is screaming. You step carefully down the passageway toward the lower hull access. It's off limits, technically, but you've snuck down here before, usually for peace and a decent smoke. Today, you're chasing a phantom vibration. You grip the railing as the ship sways beneath you. Not the roll of waves, but the subtle, sideways lean that only happens when she's turning hard. Someone up there knows something's wrong, and yet they don't feel what you do. Because here's the strange part. You can't hear the alarm, but you can smell the tension, taste the coppery shift in the air, and sense the subtle differences in balance, like the way the coffee sloshed left instead of right this morning. There's a reason they called people like you canaries in the coal mine during the war. Not because you sing, but because you notice before anyone else when the air turns dangerous. You reach the maintenance corridor and crouch. Press your hand to the grating. There it is again. A steady pulse. Thud. Pause. Thud. Pause. It's not from the ship. It's sonar. And it's getting closer. You remember reading about this? Well, okay. Seeing someone read about it. Active sonar pings from U-boats, bouncing off hulls like bats screaming in the dark. Most sailors would never feel it, but you're practically a tuning fork in a uniform. Fun fact, during WA2, some Allied ships experimented with silent running techniques. They'd cut all engine noise and drift like ghosts through enemy waters. The idea was to vanish beneath the sound. It worked sometime. Historians still debate its effectiveness. Some claim it saved dozens of vessels. Others say it was mostly theatrical. You're not interested in theories. You're interested in the fact that your ship is now being pinged, measured, hunted, and you're the only one feeling it. You head back upstairs with a purpose. Not running. Running draws attention. You move fast, but calm, calculated. Back in the galley, you grab your trusty ladle. It's not a weapon. It's your voice. You clatter it 3 times on the countertop. 1, 2, 3. A sailor pokes his head in, confused. You beckon him over. Napkin, marker. You write. Pings, hull, outside, not us. You underline, not us, 3 times. He squints. Sonar. You nod. Big exaggerated nod. He's not sure what to do. Neither are you, to be honest. But someone has to escalate this. So you walk into the officer's mess. Ladle raised. This is not a drill. This is not about stew. They stare at you. Again, you write. Feeling external sonar. Not from our ship. Then you draw a crude U-boat. You've practiced it before. Kind of a hobby. Stick submarine. Angry fish face. Little ping waves coming off it. Someone snorts. Someone else goes pale. Where? They ask. You stomp your foot, point to the floor, trace the line along the galley toward the stern, then shrug. You don't know exactly, but it's close enough that you're picking it up through 2 inches of steel. They start moving, slow at first, then faster. You've stirred the pot, and not in the usual culinary way. By the time you get back to the kitchen, the alert system has changed colors. Red and blue now. That's serious. That's enemy in range. Serious. You brace yourself against the prep table, close your eyes, and listen again. The pings have stopped, which is worse, because that means the U-boat has found what it needed. And now, it's just waiting. You flash back to something your grandfather told you. Well, mimed to you, back when you were a kid, about the stillness before a dog bites, the way its ears pin back, its body goes quiet. It's not hesitation, it's calculation. That's what this feels like now. Calculation. You grip the edge of the table. Your nails dig in. You're not a hero. You're a cook. A deaf man on a floating death trap with burnt stew and a gut full of nerves. And yet, somewhere deep in the belly of the ship, you feel the water shift, and you know it's not over. It hasn't even started yet. You wake up, sweating, not from a nightmare. No, you've had those before. This is different. This is the kind of sweat that comes when your body knows something before your mind does. The bunk creaks beneath you as you swing your legs over the side. It's sometime before dawn. You can tell by the hue of the corridor light. Pale, barely there, like the ship's trying not to wake itself. And yet, something has woken you. You press your bare foot to the floor. There it is again. A tremor, faint but wrong. It's not the usual hum of engines or the groan of metal fatigue. It's steadier, slower, like footsteps, but massive, far too slow for a person. You stand and press your whole palm to the wall, letting the vibrations come to you. Thud, pause, thud. You know this rhythm now. It's not part of your ship. It's something else nearby, sending out sonar or shifting silently in the depths. Your heart hammers, and for a moment you consider ignoring it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a dream that stuck to your bones. But then again, you've never been wrong when you trusted the floor. You grab your boots, slip them on without tying, and make your way barefoot and quiet through the lower deck. You pass rows of sleeping men, some snoring softly. You envy them, their unknowing peace. As you turn the corner toward the galley, a rat scurries across your path. You don't flinch. Rats know the ship as well as you do. When they start acting nervous, you pay attention. You reach the pantry and kneel. There's a spot under the flour sacks where the steel seems thinner, part of a maintenance retrofit last winter. It's your unofficial listening post. You press your fingers to the floor, and there it is, faint, predictable. Thud, thud, pause, thud. Only now it's louder, closer. You're not just feeling it, you're practically riding it. And that's when you realize it's not moving away. It's following. The ship isn't being passed by. It's being tracked. Outside, the sea is flat and quiet. No moon tonight. Just the blanket of war-dark sky and the heavy breath of the ocean. If there's a periscope breaking the surface, no one would see it. But you can feel it. You stand, heart pounding in your throat, and grab your chalkboard. You keep one in every room now. Old habit. You scribble. Patterned sonar continues, tracking us. Wrong timing, not ours. You burst into the wardroom, startling the night shift. A junior officer nearly spills his coffee. You thrust the board in front of him. He squints, reads it twice, then looks up. Again? You nod. Twice. He groans and leans back in his chair. We checked the sonar. Nothing solid. Could be a false echo. Or fish. You write furiously. Fish don't ping metal. I feel metal. He hesitates, then grudgingly radios the bridge. Moments later, you're on your way there, too. The bridge smells like cold sweat and stale coffee. Captain Rosario stands by the forward windows, hands behind his back, looking into the void. When you enter, he turns slightly. You raise the board. We're being tracked. The XO frowns. Sir, there's still nothing visible on radar, just scattered reflections. Captain Rosario doesn't answer immediately. He walks over to the old paper charts, spreads one open, and marks your current position. Then he says, softly, so you read his lips, if he's right, and there's a sub, we're heading into a trap. Historically, German U-boats in the Atlantic often worked in packs. They'd shadow convoys for days, waiting for night or fog to strike. The Allies called them wolf packs. The most terrifying part wasn't when they attacked, but the long, eerie silence before the bite. Some historians argue that the fear those U-boats inspired far outweighed their actual impact, but others say it's that very fear that led to better tactics, radar improvements, depth charges, and the strategy of zigzag sailing. Captain Rosario makes a decision. We zigzag, he says, effective immediately. It's a controversial call. Zigzagging slows your speed and burns more fuel, but it also throws off torpedoes and confuses sonar. You smile, not because you're proud, but because the ship finally listened to you. Back in the galley, you return to your duties. It's nearly breakfast time, and 200 men will expect powdered eggs, canned hash, and something resembling coffee. But as you stir the pot, something new rises in your chest, a mix of tension and trust. They may not say it out loud. They may never fully understand how you know what you know. But for now, they're listening. You glance at the floor again. No new tremors. No false calm either. Just silent, which in your world has always meant pay attention. The kitchen is quiet again. Not the comfortable kind of quiet you like. The early morning before reveille kind, when the ship hums like a sleepy dog. No, this is the stillness of tension, a held breath in steel and rivets. You grip the edge of the countertop, one hand on your trusty ladle, the other pressed flat against the wall. You're not cooking, not really. You're waiting. The zigzag pattern worked for now. You haven't felt the sonar pulses in nearly 2 hours, but something about that bothers you, because the sea never stops talking, and neither does a predator once it starts the chase. You glance at the hallway. The crew has started avoiding eye contact again. No one says it, but you can feel it. They're hoping you're wrong this time, that it was a school of fish, or maybe just nerves. But you know better. There's a new tremor. You feel it just past the galley, in the floor beneath the cold storage locker. It's subtle, less rhythmic than before, but it's there. You kneel, ignoring the sting in your knees from the cold metal. You place your fingertips flat and feel the vibration move diagonally, like something tracking across your underbelly. Not along the hull this time, under it. And it's not just one pattern, it's two. That's what makes your breath catch. 2 pulses, one slightly faster than the other. 2 vessels, one shadowing behind the other. A wolf pack. You grab your notebook and scribble it down. 2 distinct patterns. Wolf pack, you underline it. Twice. The officer in the mess barely glances up when you show him. He's reading a comic strip, so you walk past him, straight to the upper level, where the radio room flickers with green light. Inside, Operator Lim looks up, surprised. You point to your note. He squints, then whistles. He's a fast signer, and while you're not fluent, you understand enough. Sure. He signs. You nod, sharp and certain. He hesitates, then turns to his console. "Captain," he says into the receiver. The cook says it's 2, not 1. Silence. Then finally the reply crackles in. "Tell him to mark the rhythms." Lim raises his eyebrows. "That's a first." You pull a pen from your pocket and a scrap of butcher paper. You sketch the vibrations as you felt them, one with even spacing, the other a slight drag, like a limp. Lim hands it to the ensign, who rushes it upstairs. And then you wait. Cooking something now would feel wrong. Instead, you sit on a milk crate in the back of the galley and stare at your hand. There's flour under your nails and a small burn on your thumb from the coffee pot incident 2 days ago. You could probably file for hazard pay. If they paid you for what you feel, you'd be a general by now. You tap your heel on the floor. Thump, pause, thump, pause. The pattern doesn't match yours. Still just the ship, for now. Suddenly, a knock on the galley hatch. Not the usual, "Where's my toast?" knock. It's short, sharp, authority behind it. It's Baker. He steps inside, closes the door behind him, and signs, slowly. "Captain wants you on the bridge." You blink. This never happens. You grab your apron, habit, not logic, and follow him. The ship creaks slightly as you climb the ladder to the bridge. Up here, the sea stretches forever, a black sheet beneath a bruised sky. No stars tonight, just the soft glow of instrument panels and the hiss of radio static. Captain Rosario nods as you enter. He speaks carefully, knowing you'll read his lips. You say 2 boats. How sure? You don't answer with words. You kneel, press your hand to the steel floor, and close your eyes. For a moment, silence. Then, there, the smaller one, off rhythm, just a whisper in your bones. You look up and nod. The captain turns to his XO. "Alert the gunners. Depth charges in 30 minutes. Wide sweep." The XO frowns. "Sir, we haven't confirmed. We don't wait for confirmation. We trust our instincts." You suppress a smile. That's new. You stay on the bridge, leaning against a support beam as the ship begins a gradual turn. You can feel the shift in the flooring, the curve of the prow, angling like a dancer preparing a final move. And then the deck jolts, a soundless burst of pressure in your chest, a ripple through the walls. The ship isn't hit, but something nearby is. You drop to the floor instinctively, pressing your palm down again. One pattern gone, just gone. You look up. breath shallow. The bridge is silent. Captain Rosario doesn't speak. Then he mutters, "That wasn't us. A torpedo? No, it missed. Or maybe it hit the other one. Because now the second pattern is moving. Fast. Frantic. No more hunting. Just escape. You press your hands to the deck again. Yes, it's fleeing. You nod. The captain sees. You felt that. You nod again. He exhales slowly, a smile twitching at the corner of his mouth. Historically, there were moments in the war when ships escaped by sheer luck, others by brilliant strategy, and a rare few, just a handful, by listening to the people no one else would. Tonight, your ship survives because it listened to you. Midnight settles like a wool blanket, thick, quiet, and slightly itchy. You're back in the galley, but sleep isn't even pretending to visit. You stir a pot of something simple, hot water and dried tomato paste, just for the ritual of it. Something warm to hold, something to feel grounded. The ship is steady now, but not peaceful. You feel it in your gut, the same way animals sense earthquakes before the ground breaks open. Everyone wants to believe the danger has passed. After all, one sonar pattern disappeared, and the other is retreating. Still, why does the ship feel more awake now than before? You sit on a stool by the pantry door, that same worn floor tile beneath your boot. You reach down, rest your hand again, and wait. This time, you're not sure what you're looking for. The deep sea is famous for its unpredictability. Even now, historians argue about what lay beneath those waters. Abandoned mines, silent wrecks, ghost echoes. Some captains swore they felt phantoms trailing them. Others chalked it up to wartime nerves. But you know the difference between fear and instinct says, we're not alone. You get up and walk the corridor again, this time slower, as if the metal itself might whisper to you if you're gentle. You pause at the engine compartment, nod to the mechanic inside. He nods back. He doesn't ask what you're doing anymore. They've stopped asking. You move toward the back of the ship where the access hatch to the ballast compartment lies sealed. The corridor here smells like oil and something else. Rust, maybe? No, older. Like damp cloth and forgotten warnings. You lower yourself to the floor, pressing both palms to the bulkhead now. The cold rushes up your skin, but beneath it, yes, there it is again. Not sonar, not a sub. Something slower, a vibration that pulses every few seconds. But it doesn't move, it just stays. You frown. That's not tracking, that's lurking. You grab your notebook and write. Stationary vibration, low and slow. Nearby, back in the radio room, Operator Lim reads it, then signs. Mine? You raise your eyebrows. Hadn't thought of that. A sea mine? You take a deep breath. Mines weren't always triggered by contact. Some were magnetic or acoustic, and some, the really nasty ones, were set to detonate if a ship got too quiet, designed to kill vessels running silent. You scribble, if silent running could trigger a caustic mine. Limbs stiffen. The XO appears seconds later, summoned by a radio call. You hand him the note. He frowns deeply, then vanishes toward the bridge. Minutes later, you feel the change. The engines don't shut down as expected. The ship maintains speed, not fast, not loud, but constant. And now you feel it, a new tension, the kind that comes when people finally believe you, and that belief terrifies them. Historically, acoustic mines were used by both sides during the war. The Germans deployed thousands of them, especially along key shipping lanes. Ships that tried to hide by cutting noise often found themselves turned into brief, fiery headlines. Naval engineers created makeshift solutions, air bubble screens, hull degaussing, even noisemakers thrown overboard. You wonder if anyone aboard your ship knows those tricks. Probably not. Probably not tonight. You return to the galley, pour the tomato water into 2 mugs, and carry them toward the bridge. The night is cold, the kind that seeps into metal, making walls sweat and fingertips stiffen. Captain Rosario takes the cup without looking at you, just mutters, "Thanks, Then after a pause, can you still feel it? You close your eyes, reach down. Yes, thrum, pause, thrum, still there, still waiting. You nod. The captain grimaces. We're sailing past it. Should be clear in 15. You scribble one more thing. Don't slow down. He chuckles. Wasn't planning to. 15 minutes pass like 15 years. Every clank, every groan, every distant splash feels like a potential ending. You grip the rail on the bridge, heart matching the throb beneath your boots. 10 minutes, 5, and then gone, just like that. The vibration vanishes, as if someone pulled a plug on the ocean itself. You open your eyes. The captain stares at you. You nod. One last time. He doesn't say thank you, but he doesn't need to. He knows you saved them again. You've never been good at sleep, even before the war, even before the sea. The nights always stretched longer for you than for most. Silence doesn't quiet your mind. It gives it space to echo. Tonight the echoes are loud. The ship is calm now, cutting through the water like a steel hymn. The engines hum evenly. The crew has settled back into a rhythm. And for the first time in what feels like forever, no one's watching you with sideways glances or barely concealed doubt. And that's almost worse, because you know how this works. They believe you after the danger passes, but they never ask how you knew. They never want to. You're back in your bunk, staring at the ceiling, a mix of rusted bolts and peeling paint. Each spot has a story, and you know them all. You once named one after a girl from back home who used to pass you notes folded into tiny frogs. You wonder if she'd believe you now. Your thoughts drift, not in words, but in textures. The cold pulse of steel, the scrape of wet boots, the weight of a ship that's seen too much and been told too little. You sit up. The room is warm, too warm. You swing your legs down again, walk barefoot back to the galley. The deck is dry. No odd vibrations, no tremors. Still your bones itch. There's something unfinished in the air. You pour yourself a mug of water, sip slowly, and stare at the wall across from the stove. There's a dent there, left by your elbow the day you slipped on potato peels during a storm. You keep it there as a reminder. Pay attention to the floor. It never lies. And then a faint pulse, not from the hull, not from the ocean, from above. You tilt your head, step into the corridor. It happens again. A slow, dragging thud from the ceiling. You frown. Ships like this are supposed to be loud above. Footsteps, chatter, the occasional barked order. But this isn't footsteps. This is heavier, slower, like someone dragging something, or someone who shouldn't be walking up there at all. You make your way to the stairwell. The top deck is dark. No stars, no moon, just that heavy blackout cloth of wartime sky pressing down. You step onto the weather deck, wind brushing your face with the salt of everything that could have gone wrong. You pause, and then you see it. A shadow, not a sailor. A shape, too big, too smooth, floating low in the water, just yards from the starboard side. Your heart skips. It's not moving. It's just there. You crouch behind a stack of coiled rope and squint. A periscope? No, not quite. A buoy? No. Then you feel it again, faint, through the metal, even from up here. The same pulse. It's not just a shadow. It's sending something. You grab your chalkboard and scramble back inside, running now, pounding down the stairs toward the bridge. When you burst in, Rosario is half asleep in his chair. The XO looks up, startled. You slam the chalkboard down. Object starboard, not mine. Sending signal. The XO frown. Signals to who? You don't know, but you don't have to, because as soon as the ship begins to turn, the object disappears beneath the waves. No splash, just gone. Later, when the techs review the logs, they'll find a brief transmission burst. Ultrasonic, not traceable, possibly encrypted. Historians still argue about moments like this. Some say the Germans tested sonar decoys shaped like ghost vessels. Others whisper about neutral spy ships playing both sides. Some even say whales fitted with tracking devices. There are no answers. Only that shape, only that pulse, only the fact that you felt it before the machines did. Back in the galley, you stir a pot of instant coffee that's been sitting too long. Bitter, burnt, just the way Baker likes it. You hear footsteps, or rather feel them, before he arrives. He walks in, doesn't say anything, just hands you a folded napkin. On it is one word. Thanks. You smile. It's enough. You don't hear the explosion, but you feel it. A deep muscular punch through the spine of the ship that sends your ladle spinning from the stovetop and your knees buckling under you. The galley tilts, hard left. A pan of onions sails through the air like it's got somewhere more important to be. You slam into the counter, shoulder first, and instinct takes over. You roll to the floor, palms flat on the steel, absorbing the tremors like they're a language. And they are. They're screaming. Impact. Stern. Not fatal. Not yet. You scramble to your feet. Everything smells like burnt grease and panic. The emergency lights kick in, bathing the galley in a blinking red glow that turns even flour into something sinister. Another tremor rolls through, lighter this time, but unmistakable. A distant splash. Secondary, not a torpedo, a depth charge. One of ours, and that means the game's back on. Your heart doesn't race. It compresses. That slow, dense weight, pressing inward. You've had it before, back when your little brother got lost during a storm, and you stood barefoot in a field, feeling thunder crawl across the ground. Same energy. You grab your emergency bag. Yes, you have one, and run. The hallway is chaos. Crew shouting, some running toward the stern, others trying to find someone who knows what just hit them. You push past them and find your way to your corner of the world, the service access, beneath the mess. You slam your hand to the wall and feel for a heartbeat. It's ragged. The hull did take damage. Not a breach, but something knocked hard enough to send vibrations up and down the frame. You reach into your pocket, pull out your notebook, and jot. Secondary object. Detonated near hull. Not strike. Triggered. You rush back toward the radio room. Lim is already surrounded by 2 junior officers and a headset tech. The signal map is alive with noise. Static. Cross-chatter. Partial ping. You slam your notebook on the desk. He reads it, blinks, then signs quickly. You think we set it off? You shrug. Maybe, maybe not. But something nearby was waiting, and something just woke it up. One of the junior officers squints. Could have been an acoustic tether. Some minds are chained. They wait for multiple vessels. You scrawl, or sonar-triggered dummy, meant to cause panic. The captain calls in seconds later. Orders full diagnostic. No zigzag yet. Stay on course, unless structural integrity drops. Your brain parses this not as military protocol, but as we're still pretending we're okay. You don't believe it, so you go back to your galley, and you wait. You cook something simple. Instant noodles, half a tomato, a few herbs you smuggled on board months ago. You eat standing up, one hand on the counter, the other dangling, brushing the metal floor occasionally, as if to say, talk to me again when you're ready. Then thrum, faint but familiar. Not sonar, not engine, a dragging sound far below, like something circling back. The spoon in your mug clinks softly. You glance down and realize the surface of your tea is vibrating. You rush to the storage room, where the floor is cleaner, where you can feel without distractions. There, yes, it's not a sub, it's a torpedo, not moving toward you, just waiting. This one didn't launch. It's lodged, somewhere near the aft, The ship hit something, and it didn't go off. You don't think. You run. You find Baker near the stairwell. You grab his collar, drag him into a side hall, and slam your note into his chest. Unexploded torpedo aft lodged. I can feel it. He goes still, then runs faster than you've ever seen a man his size move. Less than 5 minutes later, the shipwide alert changes tone. You don't hear it, but you see the lights shift. The crew is moving. Controlled panic. Not chaos, yet. Within 20 minutes, divers are suiting up. The XO passes you without a word. Just a firm hand on your shoulder. That's all. When they return, shivering, soaked, and slightly pale, their expressions confirm everything. There was a torpedo. It didn't explode. Historians later cataloged these incidents as close calls, but you know better. It wasn't luck. It wasn't divine timing. It was that you listen, not with ears, but with everything else. Back in your bunk that night, you finally feel tired. Truly tired. You sleep with one hand still touching the wall, just in case. You're frying eggs when you decide to break the rules. Technically, no one said not to enter the sonar bay, but no one expects the cook to care what sonar looks like. You're supposed to care about rations, coffee temperature, and whether the cornbread is edible. But you've tasted enough of this war to know it doesn't play by rank. You walk past the control room, up a tight stairwell, and into the small chamber they call the tank. Inside, sonar operators sit hunched over glowing green screen, lines flickering like nervous handwriting across watery paper. They don't notice you at first. You're quiet, always quiet. But when one of them looks up and sees you, his brows rise. You lift your notepad and write, "Teach me what you hear. I'll teach you what I feel." He stares, then laughs, but not cruelly. "Sure, chef." And that's how it begins. Within 20 minutes, you're learning how sonar really works. Not just the Hollywood version with the dramatic pings, but the truth, the weird truth. Like how whale clicks can mimic enemy subs, or how temperature layers in the water bend sound, hiding things even from high-end equipment, or how, during W2, some sailors swore that certain people could feel things sonar missed. One of the techs, a kid named Washburn, leans in. Some folks said there were men who felt things in their teeth, he says, like fillings vibrating. You grin, tapping your molars. You do have one from a boarding school accident. Historians still debate it, he adds. Some say it was just stress, hallucination. You raise your eyebrows and point to yourself, then to the deck. Washburn laughs. All right, noted. From then on they start calling you the tuner, as in the guy who tunes into the hull. It's half joke, half reverence. Back in the galley, things go back to almost normal. The kitchen is warm again. Sailors wander in more often, lingering with fake excuses. "Hey, just checking if the potatoes are gonna, explode or something." You play along. Only if you insult them, you scribble, holding up a sign. They're sensitive. But in between the jokes and the hash browns, something changes. People listen. They stop brushing you off. They ask you what the floor feels like. They trust you when your fingers twitch against the steel. So when you say, "During lunch prep," it's back. They don't laugh. You don't have to write more. The crew knows. The tremors have returned, but different now. Not stalking, not circling, waiting, like something observing, testing. And that's what terrifies you the most, because silence isn't just absence. It's sometimes the most intentional sound in the world. The captain calls an emergency meeting. You're not invited, but Baker sneaks you in through the service corridor and into the observation room just adjacent. Through the glass, you can see the senior officers gathered like chess players with no rule. The sonar's picking up nothing clear, the XO says. But something's out there, says Rosario. We've had too many non-random events. They bring up the object from a few nights ago, the unexplained pulse, the decoy, maybe, or bait. You scribble your theory and pass it to Baker. He reads it, then slides it onto the table. What if they're not trying to hit us? What if they're watching us? The room goes quiet. You imagine the tension. You feel it even from here, like static before a lightning strike. Finally, the captain says, "Then we need to surprise them first." That night, the plan is laid out. The ship will perform an aggressive maneuver, a fake power cut, followed by a sharp course change to flush out whatever's observing them. It's risky, could send the crew into chaos, could start a real firefight. But if it works, it will give them the edge. And you'll be the one calling the moment. They build you a relay system, 3 lights wired into the galley wall. Green, all clear. Yellow, maintain course. Red, execute maneuver. Your role is simple. Monitor the floor. When it vibrates like it did before the non-detonated torpedo, you press red. The night is long. You make tea, lay out crackers, sit barefoot on the cold tile. You wait, and then, there it is. The same pulse, same drag, same presence. No sonar pings. Just that deliberate heavy shift of water, not moving toward you, watching. You stare at the light, then slowly, decisively, press the red button. Up on the bridge, alarms flare. The ship dives hard to starboard, then cuts engines to mimic failure. For 30 seconds, she drifts, silent, lifeless, and in that void, sonar screams. A signal explodes through the water. Not yours, not allied. Something very real trying to recalibrate, suddenly exposed. The sonar team goes to work. Depth charges are prepped. No longer prey. Now you're hunting. And it all started with your hand on the floor. The explosion never happens, but it almost does. You feel it not in your hands, but in your jaw. A sudden clamp, like your own skull catching its breath. A pulse of pressure rolls through the galley as the ship jolts back into motion. The crew erupts above you, boots hammering metal, commands shouted through tight gritted teeth, gunners sprinting towards stations. But here in the kitchen, stillness, just you, a cracked mug, and the echo of what could have been. You press your hand to the deck again, half expecting the same rhythm, the same sonar drag, but it's gone. What replaced it isn't silence, it's absence. Whatever was watching fled. You exhale, not because it's over, but because you finally know what it feels like when something decides not to kill you. Historically, skirmishes like these didn't make the papers. No medals, no heroic photos, just a line in a ship's log. Suspicious contact, defensive maneuver, no impact. Yet these are the moments sailors remembered. The ghosts that almost got in. You stand slowly, knees stiff, shoulders tight, from crouching too long. The galley is trashed. A pan of beans lies face down on the floor, like it fainted from stress. You don't clean it yet. Instead, you walk to the intercom. Yes, the one you never use. You flick it on, tap the line once, and wait for the light to glow green. Then you tap out a code. Morse. 3 words. It's gone now. You don't hear the response, but a sailor appears at your door minutes later. He hands you a clipboard. Message from the bridge. Standing down to yellow alert. Full scan underway. Good call, tuner. You smile, not because you want praise, but because the name stuck. They've stopped calling you the cook. Now you're the tuner, and even though your uniform hasn't changed, the weight of it has. You wash your hand, mop the floor, right the coffee pot, and start boiling water. Because there's still work to do. There's always work to do. You set out mugs, not for yourself, but for the 6 crewmen who will stagger in within the next hour. Nerves fried, looking for something warm to hold on to. When the first one appears, Washburn from sonar. He doesn't say anything, just pours a cup and sits at the far table, eyes scanning nothing. You drop a sugar cube in his mug. He nods once. You've both felt something few people ever will. Not war. That's common. Awareness. You sit beside him and take out your sketch pad. Not notes this time, just shapes. You draw the way the deck felt. The rhythm, the slope of panic. You've done this since you were young. Translate sensation into picture. Some people write. You diagram. A quiet hobby for a quiet man. Washburn leans over. Looks like a heartbeat. He mutters. You write underneath it. It skipped once. He laughs. Tired. Same. Later that morning, the captain calls a meeting in the mess hall. A rare one. All crew. Standing room only. He doesn't give a speech. Doesn't dress it up. He simply says, "This ship was hunted. It was not hit. And we didn't avoid disaster by radar or speed or chain of command." He pauses. Looks over the crowd. Then directly at you. We avoided it because someone listened. Every head turns. You wish you could vanish into your apron. You settle for a small wave. Someone claps. Then two. Then a ripple of applause spreads. Awkward but sincere. Like men learning how to say thank you in a new language. They call it off soon after. Everyone back to their duties. War doesn't pause for long. But for a moment, just a moment, you are the center of a ship that once forgot you existed. And now, they see you. Back in the kitchen, you don't make a speech. You just make extra toast. Buttered both sides. Even for the ones who never liked it that way. Because something has shifted. You're no longer just feeding the crew. You're holding them together. The toaster sparks. Not in a dangerous way. Just enough to singe the corner of a slice. And remind you that even the most loyal machines have their limits. You tap it twice, like a scolding, then gently rescue the bread with tongs and scrape off the charcoal edge. A few sailors chuckle behind you. Even the toasters had enough of this war, one says. You don't hear it, of course, but you catch the mood in their faces. Lighter, still tired, still coiled with tension, but no longer suffocating. You hand over their plates. One pats the counter in thanks. Another gives you a thumbs up and signs, "Good bread, better nerves." That's how it's been since the maneuver. You've become more than the cook. You're now a checkpoint, a living barometer. Men drop by the galley not just for meals, but to watch your expression. If you're calm, they can be. So you fake calm when needed. Smile, even when your jaw's tight. Stir stew like it's a meditation. Because if your hands move smoothly, maybe the ship will too. The next day brings blue skies and no contact. Still, you can't shake the feeling. Something's wrong again. Not the sea, not the sonar, the crew. There's a heaviness creeping back into the halls. Not fear, fatigue. The kind that comes after surviving something invisible. You recognize it instantly. It's the same heaviness you carried as a kid, when people smiled kindly but never listened. When you had to work twice as hard to get half the trust. The same weight of being right, but not respected for it. They clapped, they thanked you, but now they talk about luck again. Back to theories, back to dismissals, not cruel, just forgetful. The ship forgets fast, so you start paying attention even more. You mark floor patterns after every meal. You memorize each groan in the lower decks. You track how long the ballast pumps run. It's not obsession, it's survival, and it pays off. 3 nights later, you're jolted awake, not by sound, but by the absence of motion. The engines have stopped completely. You sit up, feel the air. It's wrong. You swing your feet down and plant them on the floor. There's nothing. No hum, no vibration, no life. You walk barefoot down the corridor, the steel warm beneath your soles. You pass sleeping men, still breathing, still unaware. And then, near the rear hatch, you feel it. A single bump from underneath, soft, like someone tapping the ship's belly from below. Then another. You brace yourself. Tap, pause, tap. Whatever's out there, it's back. But it's not hunting this time. It's testing, and this time, it knows you are listening. You run back to the sonar room. Washburn's half asleep in his chair. You slam a mug onto the console. He jumps. You scribble fast. Not dead. Testing us. Something keeps coming back. He stares at you, then calls the bridge. You're there 10 minutes later. Captain Rosario stands with arms crossed. The crew looks to you like you're some kind of oracle. It's awkward, but necessary. You step forward, tap your boot, shake your head, then write, not luck, patterns. This is strategy. The captain doesn't dismiss you. He nods. Orders go out. The ship begins scanning, not just with sonar, but with intention. This isn't evasion anymore. It's counterintelligent, because what's become clear, even if no one wants to say it, is that something has been studying the USS Altamira. Not attacking, not retreating, just learning, like you did. Captain Rosario changes protocol. You're added to the morning briefing. Officially, the XO isn't thrilled. You don't blame him. You just keep doing your job. Both of them, cooking by day, listening by night, and in between, drawing. You sketch the pulses, map the drag, chart the shifts in rhythm, and as you do, a picture forms, not just of where you are, but of what's out there. You're not just a man in a kitchen anymore. You're a sensor, and in a war of machines, that makes you priceless. The captain asks you for a map, not of the sea, of the floor. It's 2 in the morning. You're in the officer's mess with a tray of hot tea, a piece of chalk, and a table someone pushed clean just for you. You sketch it slowly, carefully, each tile, each pipe bend, each creak you've memorized by heart. He watches in silence. When you're done, you tap 4 spots along the hull and write, places I feel things first. He nods. We'll place sensors here, just in case. You smirk and scribble, you finally believe in my feet? He chuckles. Let's say I trust your soul. The next morning, the mood on board is odd. Lighter, yes, but also sharper. The crew has started treating you like a compass. You pass a group of sailors and they nod. Not out of politeness, but deference. You catch one murmuring behind you. That's the guy, the one who felt it before sonar did. It's surreal, but you don't let it go to your head. You've lived too long in the margins to believe the spotlight lasts. What matters is why they're listening now, because they're scared, and they should be. That morning, sonar logs something strange. Not a vessel, not a mine, a pulse, singular, deep, spread across several frequencies at once. Not meant to navigate, not meant to echo, meant to signal. Washburn shows it to you. The printout looks like the jagged edge of a heartbeat monitor, mixed with a music score played by someone who's never heard a tune in their life. You tap it and shake your head, then write, it's not trying to see, it's trying to be seen. That afternoon the sea is calm, too calm. The crew's smiles are forced. Tension hums louder than the engines. You retreat to your galley, but you don't cook. You draw and think and wonder, what if we're not alone out here? Not just watched by enemies, but by others we'll never understand. A few historians argue this, that certain sonar pulses recorded during Waiitunes were never decoded, that among all the chaos of war there were patterns without meaning, signals no side admitted to sending. Were they errors, hoaxes, or warnings? No one agrees, but you feel it again that evening. Same pressure, same low throb, like something ancient turning beneath the water. Not mechanical, not angry, just aware. You're in the freezer when it hits. A drop in temperature you can't explain, colder than refrigeration, like the air itself recoiled from something deep below. You rush to the floor, press both palms down, and there it is. Not sonar, not movement, a pulse. One, singular, then a long pause, then nothing. You stare at the ceiling. The meat hooks sway ever so slightly. You return to the bridge, soaked in sweat. They let you in without asking. Rosario looks up. You write, "One pulse, intentional, like knocking on a door." The room falls quiet. The XO leans forward. "And what happens if we knock back?" You hesitate, then slowly, on the edge of the chart table, you knock twice with your knuckles, soft, even. Washburn stares. Moments later, a second sonar reading appears on the screen. 2 ping, matched in rhythm, not proximity, rhythm. The room goes ice still. You just had a conversation. With what? No one knows. But for the first time, they all understand what you've always known. Sound isn't the only way to speak. You don't sleep that night. Not because you're afraid, because you're listening. The 2 knocks were answered. Now the ship isn't just being followed. It's in a dialogue, and you're the only one fluent in a language with no name. You sit on the cold galley floor, back against the oven, eyes half closed. One hand rests flat on the steel. The other holds your notebook, page half filled with sketched rhythms. 1 knock, 2 knocks, a pause, repeat, then an idea. You flip to a clean sheet and draw the layout of the ship again. Not just the floor this time, but the depth, the vertical plane. Because something about the pulse pattern, it's not just horizontal. You rush to the sonar bay, notebook in hand. Washburn is still there, half conscious with a lukewarm cup of coffee. You tap the table. He perks up. You slide your sketch over. "What if the signal's coming from below our depth?" You write. He frowns, as in, the trench. You nod. The deep ocean, the really deep. The kind that doesn't care about wars, borders, or even time. And that's when it hits you. We've always mapped the ocean horizontally. But what if it's layers? And what if, just maybe, something below isn't trying to hunt? It's trying to understand. You scribble frantically. What if it thought we were knocking first? Washburn pales. "Holy hell," he mutters. "We've been pinging it for hours." You race to the bridge. The captain's there, mid-briefing. You hold up the notebook, scrawled quickly. "We pinged first. It might be curious, not aggressive." He stares at it. "No weapons drawn, but maintain alert," he tells his officers. And for once, they don't argue. The ship continues its path, silent for now. No depth charges, no decoys, just presence, just company. By noon, the sonar pulses stop. No more knocking, no more answers, but no attacks either. You sit with the captain later that evening. He drinks his coffee, 1 sugar. You stir tea leaves with the handle of a spoon. "I've commanded ships for 20 years, he says, watching the waves. "But I've never felt observed. Not like that." You write slowly. You weren't being hunted. You were being measured. He stares at your words for a long time, then folds the paper, puts it in his pocket. "I believe you," he says. He pauses, then adds, almost as an afterthought, "But no one back home ever will." You nod. That's always been true. When you first boarded this ship, they barely remembered your name. Now they wait to see where you put your feet before they plot a course. Later that night, something unexpected happens. A small, private gesture. The XO finds you on deck, hands you a box. It's from the crew. Inside is a patch they had made, embroidered roughly but proudly. A silhouette of a man crouched with one hand on steel. Above it, stitched in uneven letters, "The Tuner." You don't cry, but you hold it to your chest a long, long while. The war doesn't end that night, or the next, but something changes. Not in the ocean, but in the ship. The USS Altamira sails quieter now, not just in engine noise or sonar pulses, but in presence. It moves with something like respect, as if aware that below its hull lies a world it doesn't understand and no longer wants to disturb. You keep cooking, not because it's your duty, because it's comfort. Each scrambled egg is a peace offering, each slice of toast a truce. Even the coffee, now brewed so strong it could raise the Titanic, has become part of the ritual, a way of saying, we're still here. We're still trying to understand. Washburn drops by more often, not for food, but for rhythm. You show him how you feel the hull, barefoot, eyes closed, hands flat. You let him try. He's not quite tuned, but he's learning. One night, you hand him a note. It's not about silence, it's about attention. He nods, scribbles under it. That's what the ocean wants, too. There's no more knocking. But once, just once, during a supply transfer off the coast of the Azores, you feel a presence again. Not a threat, just a thrum, low and patient, like something checking in. You don't alert the captain this time. You just sit quietly on the floor and tap your knuckles twice, softly, and nothing answers. But it doesn't need to. That night, the cook's name appears on the official duty log, not just as mess specialist, but as vibrational observer, auxiliary designation. It's a joke, of course, but not entirely. And when the war finally does end, you step off the Altamira not as the man no one spoke to, but as the man everyone listened to. Eventually, history won't remember your name. No monuments will be built. But in the memories of 200 sailors, there is one moment, a night of potential death and absolute silence, when they all turned to you, and you turned to the steel floor, and the floor told the truth, and that was enough. Final calming closure. 300 words. Now the ship is docked. Now the war is over. And as you lie in your quiet bunk, in a place that doesn't sway or groan or breathe salt through its walls, you notice something strange. You miss the hum. You miss the language beneath your feet. But you also know it's still there, beneath every step, in every room, in every still moment, when the world goes quiet and your body leans in to listen. You don't need danger anymore to feel awake. You don't need war to find meaning. You just need the rhythm, the quiet, steady rhythm of presence. So you close your eyes, you stretch your legs, you let your hand rest against the cool frame of your bed, like you used to with the galley floor, and you breathe, not waiting, not worrying, just tuning in to the deep, gentle silence of a night that asks for nothing but rest. And somewhere, far below, the ocean waits, not with malice, not with mystery, but with memory. You drift off slowly, and as you do, your last thought isn't of sonar or steel or silence. It's of heat from a stovetop and a crew that finally understood. You were never just the cook. You were the one who listened. Sweet dreams.